Would you live each moment like your last? Leave old pictures in the past. Donate every dime you have.
Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann radio program, Viagra for your brain. Let's go back to Shirley in Fort Lauderdale. I believe you're back with us, Shirley.
Yes, I am.
Hi, what's up?
Mr. Hartmann, I wonder if you could explain what the benefits will be if the government nationalizes the banks.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Shirley. What would the benefit be if the government nationalizes the banks? The benefit would be that the banks will continue to exist. The argument that Andrew Mellon made, who was the Secretary of the Treasury in 1930, 29, 30, 31, and early 32 through the Hoover administration, the scion of the Mellon family, the multi-billionaire. The argument that Andrew Mellon made was that he said, liquidate labor, liquidate business, liquidate stocks, liquidate everything, and the competent business people will come in and pick up the pieces. And that's essentially what Hoover did. And what it did was it destroyed anybody who wasn't extremely wealthy to begin with, and it destroyed the banks. And I think that there's a broad consensus that our banks are such important institutions. I lack a better word, but they're essentially part of the commons, that we can't just have it fall apart. Now, there needs to be some major structural changes. Number one, banks should not be able to get into the gambling business. They shouldn't be in the investment business. We need to reinstitute the Glass-Steagall Act that was passed in the 1930s so that what happened in the 20s couldn't happen again. That was repealed in 1999 at the urging of Phil Gramm, signed by Bill Clinton. But the Republicans pushed that thing through, repealing Glass-Steagall. That was a huge mistake and probably the single thing most responsible for what's going on right now. So we need to re-regulate them, number one. Number two, we need to break big banks up into small banks so that you've got community banks. Let banks only operate within states. Have banks operate under state charters rather than federal charters so that no bank is too big to fail. And the worst it can get is a statewide bank failure of a single bank that has a bunch of competitors. We need to go back to local banking and competition. But the way to accomplish, and number three, we need to nationalize the Fed, not the banks themselves, in my opinion, but the Fed. And the Federal Reserve is not federal, and it's not a reserve. The only money in the United States that's actually made by the United States and that's actually U.S. currency is our coins. If you pull a quarter or a nickel or a dime or a dollar coin out of your pocket or a $half coin out of your pocket, that's the only real money that our government makes and that it owns. Everything else is made by the Fed. Our dollar bills, our paper money, and all the electronic money, it's made by the Fed. And it's not owned by us. The Fed is a private corporation with private investors that own it. And we should own the Fed. So the Treasury Department should buy the Fed. And over the short term, as the banks are failing, we should do what we did with the S&Ls, which is we should buy them, like Northern Rock was bought by Gordon Brown by the UK government, and buy them not with preferred shares, which are non-voting shares, even though it sounds cool, preferred. They're not preferred. They're crummy shares. Instead of buying preferred shares, we should buy a majority share in these banks and buy the actual stock so that we can say, okay, that's it. We are now the board of directors. We the people. And we are going to throw out the bums who created this disaster, and we're going to fire the executives. And Citicorp is not going to buy its $50 million jet, thank you very much, for its corporate executives, et cetera, et cetera. That's my take.